this camera will be tweaked and this camera will perform quite well. I can bet. Fujifilm can't gamble on it. They can't have the first camera not to be a successful one. It's very simple, yeah. So,
but we don't know anything about pricing yet, right?
We don't know about the pricing.
What's new in filmmaking technology this week? News, reviews, education, insights, opinions, and ideas from the CineD newsroom with Nino Leitner and Johnny Bahiri. This is Focus Check, the weekly CineTech podcast.
Welcome to episode 60 of CineD Focus Check podcast. Welcome, Johnny.
Hello, Nino. How are you?
Good. We're all back from NAB.
Tell me about it. Actually, I'm just before a short family vacation. So much to do. So many things on the table to try to finish. I promised my wife not to deal with work for 2 days. But let's see. Good luck to me.
But I think we're doing better in terms of better. I mean, we always try not to publish too much during NAB. We always publish a lot more than usually, of course, during trade show times. But we don't think it makes sense to publish everything that we shoot during NAB because it's not like the world revolves around a trade show in Las Vegas. So we try to spread the videos out. As you know, you might know, we are still publishing some videos from NAB every day now, but we will finish up within the next 2 days or so.
I think today is the last day, today or tomorrow.
Maybe. Yeah. So, it was, we did a summary. If you haven't seen last week's episode, we did a summary with Michael Cioni, which was more about the state of the industry in general, which is a very interesting discussion. Please check it out if you missed the episode 59. We recorded that on the show floor at the Iodine booth. So shout out to Iodine. Thanks for giving us the space there on the last day of the show. But we didn't really talk about individual products that we covered. This is what we want to do today. So let's just dive right in. We're not going to go into deep detail with every one of them because we just have to get through a lot. But yeah, let's start with Blackmagic Design. So Blackmagic Design announced couple of new things. As always, they're always kind of the savior of a trade show because they're the only ones left who are actually kind of announcing new products at the trade show. When I say kind of, I mean
1 day before.
Yeah, like 2 days before. They always announce it while we are in the plane to Las Vegas. And this year and last year we were lucky enough to get Wi-Fi on the plane, so we were actually able to watch stuttering images from Grand Patty's 3.5 hour live stream as we are in 12,000 meters above.
Yeah, but for the complete picture, we always have one of our dedicated crew members, one of our team here to watch it and properly write the whole thing because you still cannot rely on internet in airplanes. It's like
so disappointing. Painful. Why is there no internet? This
it's quiet, but anyway.
I'm in a chair in the sky. I want good internet. Anyway, so Blackmagic Design, we had the announcement of the PYXIS 12K. So we did a nice long interview actually because when we shared the announcement after the live stream on the Friday, I think, a lot of people had questions.
That's good.
And we actually asked people to send us questions because we knew that our first interview slot on the first day of the trade show, which was on Sunday, was with Blackmagic Design about various things.
Nino was sitting for hours collecting all the questions. Really, Nino was sitting and literally going through Instagram and YouTube.
I think it was 300 or 400 comments.
That's like...
Yeah, but basically, a lot of the questions were kind of the same. But still, we did this interview and we tried to ask all the questions. It's a 22 minutes interview. Go check that out. It's with Craig Heffernan, who's always a great
source of information.
Source of information from Blackmagic Design. And we went through everything. Of course, one of the main questions, why a 12K camera? Does anybody need 12K? And he does a good job at explaining that this RGBWW sensor, whatever it's called, don't shoot me if it's called differently, but that's the new technology they use. It's basically working with groups of pixels. So
where's Gunther when you need him?
Yeah, exactly. It's basically... group. It doesn't have a detriment to the light sensitivity, for example, of the sensor, even though it's very high resolution because of the way it works. And also you can do in-sensor scaling, so you can record 4K, 8K, or 12K. It's always multiples of, or like divisions of 12K basically, and also do that without a huge quality loss, right? I mean, there's not line skipping or anything like that with other sensors because it's working on those groups. A lot of other questions, of course, about the camera, but basically, I mean, he told us it's the same hardware as the PYXIS 6K, but they had the 12K sensor, so they made that work for this body because there were questions, of course.
Overeating or anything?
Yeah, I mean, why don't we have like a 6K full frame sensor in the PYXIS? And why are there no NDs and so on? And it's basically, well, they have the body newly developed for the original PYXIS. They have the new sensor originally developed for the URSA Cine 12K. And now they're able to move that into that body, which was always the plan, I guess. And the next step, of course, will be something more adaptive. We can just assume, which, maybe they will try to put ND filters in. Of course, that's, I guess, one of the most
requested features. That's what,
features, because it's marketed as a, like a camera that does it all in a way in one body. And that's, of course, what's missing. Also because we had it before, right? We had it on some of the pockets. Mix up the names. But anyway, one of them had it or two of them had it.
Another thing here, because we are affiliated with B&H and CVP, and we can really see in the back end, our back end, to see how people are reacting to a certain camera. And we can tell you guys that this camera was really nicely accepted. We have so many pre-orders for that specific camera. I don't want to go into the pricing stuff, up and down. This is almost like a political thing, but we can easily see which cameras are being popular in a way, and this one is popular.
Yeah, excellent. And that's also, like Johnny mentioned, I mean, CVP and B&H are our site sponsors. So if you consider buying a camera or anything from them, please try and use a link on our website. It doesn't cost you a dime more, but we get a small affiliate fee share that actually helps us, keep the lights on here and, continue to test stuff and review stuff and cover trade shows and stuff like that. So very much appreciated. Yeah, you mentioned the tariffs. Basically, I just wanted to mention the pricing thing. There was a bit of a shock in the US as were in Las Vegas, because the morning we did the interview, of course, there was this tariff announcement from the US government, and then a lot of manufacturers were just confused what to do because, of course, most of the components for electronics are coming from Asia, Japan and China and Thailand and so on. And basically what Blackmagic was the first one to, because they're one of the few manufacturers that actually have prices on their website, we have to say, because, I mean, they don't sell directly. None of these manufacturers, most of them actually don't have their own web shops except for maybe DJI. Most of them only sell through distributors, so they don't actually quote pricing. They just usually have the suggested retail price. And then the distributors and dealers will have the actual pricing. But Blackmagic is one of them that actually lists prices, and they immediately jacked up prices 32% for all of their products on the website, which came as a bit of a shock to everybody in the US. However, since then it went down again, which 5, I just wanted to mention this because we haven't reported about this additional drop. So it's down to $5,495, this camera specifically. That's still more than the original, like the $5,000 it will cost in the rest of the world. This is always without local taxes. Like in Europe, it's going to be, value-added tax, the VAT, or a sales tax in the US, and other taxes and other. So that's always on top. But the base price will be higher in the US because of the tariffs, and it's going to be $5,500. We actually... I
mean, that's not so bad. I mean, originally this camera was priced for $4,995, so that's about $500 more. I mean, of course, money is money.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's, of course, this... So nobody knows what's happening. This might still change, you don't know, but as soon as they ship it, I actually have to check if... the funny thing was that B&H still had the...
No, the price is accurate.
It's now the same? Okay.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Okay, because they had 4,000. Yeah, they now also have 5,500. So, but you see the difference here. We have the euro price from CVP, which is less than 4,900 euros, and that's about $5,000.
Get the plan, come to visit us in Europe, and will be.
You still have to pay tariffs when you import stuff.
I know.
Unless,
okay, we don't recommend handbags.
Okay, yeah. So that's the PYXIS 12K. Check out that video if you haven't seen it.
By the way, the video looks amazing. What did we shoot with?
Nice segue. Didn't use a Blackmagic camera. We actually shot most of the trade show coverage on two FUJIFILM's GFX 100 RF.
That's right.
So with a fixed 35mm, 28mm lens. 35, but it equals 28
to 35 millimeter. Yeah.
So yeah, we did this bit of an experiment with a fixed lens.
Absolutely. And I think 95% of the time it worked really well for the interviews themselves, for sure.
Yeah.
When we had to take B-rolls, sometimes it was a bit more challenging because there's a limit of how much you can literally go in.
Then we used other Fujifilm cameras.
Yeah, but that was, I think, in very few videos, and all in all, the camera performed, never overheating or anything, and we liked it. But that's a different subject, of course.
But moving on, in case you are watching the video versions of this podcast, you will see here on my screen the interview with Craig about the PYXIS 12K, and in the background you see two big eyes on a wall, and these two big eyes are a different product from Blackmagic Design, and that is the URSA Cine Immersive. Now,
sometimes I think that Nino is the only one in the world who really cares about
Really?
this.
Did you see the traffic of the video?
Yeah, of course.
Did you see it?
Those are the question, if those are the people who want to see you or want to see the...
I know you're fundamentally uninterested in immersive video.
So guys, if you are interested...
John is alone here because we have now 11,000 views on that video, making it one of the most successful ones during the trade show. And we did a run through. I mean, for the first time, of course, Blackmagic showed a working version of the URSA Cine Immersive, which was first kind of announced during Apple's WWDC last June. And we know that they're working really closely with Apple on this. And it's going to be the first commercial camera that is allowing you to shoot immersive video for the Apple Vision Pro. Why is that significant? Because so far it just simply there's completely a lack of content, and of course it's a highly niche device still in terms of pricing. But
it's
if
one
you
of the
have
only
read,
ones, no? It's one of the only cameras in the market. I mean,
it's the only one.
It's the only one.
What, this one?
Yeah.
Oh no! I mean they have a handful of prototypes now, but it's like the URSA Cine Immersive is the only commercial camera that can shoot immersive video for the Vision Pro now. And it's not only that. The interview is about I forgot the name of the guy who I interviewed, but he did a very good job explaining the whole workflow, because basically the deal is that with the new DaVinci 20. And it's not in the beta yet, but the final version will have a way to actually process it, process the immersive video and do all the post-production. I mean, this is massive. We're talking about 12K footage times 2 with 90 frames per second in RAW, because it needs to be, Apple recommends 90 frames per second. Otherwise, it's a bit of a jarring experience. So it's gonna be, it's a challenge for computing, of course, but you know, like Blackmagic is the only company that is really able to deliver the whole pipeline, because you do the post production also in their software. And
I'm very, very curious to see where that's gonna take us to.
The recent news, I think, at the time of re-recording this on Wednesday, yesterday or day before, we saw a Bloomberg report that Apple seems to be readying 2 new Vision Pro versions. So yeah, we have confirmation there that, you know, like, I mean, there were a lot of rumors of Apple dropping the Vision Pro because the first version was not popular. I keep reminding people that the first version of the iPhone was not popular. The first version of the iPod or iMac was not popular. They always play the long game with their stuff. And usually, you know, they did a good job at that. So let's see. Same
time, same place in 5 years from now. Talk about this, see where it is.
Maybe I'm elsewhere. I'm just wearing goggles looking at you.
Exactly. I'm still here without going.
You're the only one still living in the normal world. You know, we all be like in WALL-E. Anyway, so that video is popular. We see that there's not many people.
There is curiosity, you know, that's fine. But from here, the bottom line is, will people pay for it?
As people are struggling to in general, like shooting jobs are not easy right now in many places of the world, especially the US. And I think people are trying to carve out niches for their production, like finding stuff where you can find something where you're going to be an expert in something. And I think this is something where you can actually enable that and find something if you're able to produce this, because what they're clearly targeting is in the future also these booth experiences where in shops you will just have those things to put on your head to experience something, but somebody needs to shoot the content for that.
Can I summarize from my end?
Sure.
Okay.
Moving on to Blackmagic design PYXIS top and side handles were also announced. Unfortunately, they didn't really have them on proper display. They were just like in a little glass box, so we weren't able to touch them on the booth. But because I think they're a bit fresh and still not able, they were nowhere. But
do you remember if those accessories will also work with the 6K?
Yes, they work with both versions of the PYXIS.
Okay.
And it's nice because it makes the camera, of course,
makes it a
camcorder.
Yeah,
it makes a camcorder. It also puts an EVF, Full HD OLED EVF at the back of the camera. It's very funny because it kind of really makes it into a classical camcorder. It even gives you zoom rocker control of servo zooms. So for example, there's one from Canon and so on. However, of course, it cannot magically make an ND filter appear, which is one of those things that's usually part of those camcorders. But other than that, it looks really cool.
How is the connector? It's an electronic connector between the device. Do you remember? And the hot show, or we don't remember?
You mean for the zoom rocker?
No, for the even EVF. I'm asking because if this can maybe fit other devices from other companies, or it's really dedicated for. Because I can't remember if it's really.
If you look, it's like a cable. I think it's a cable.
Maybe connecting. A dedicated cable, huh? Yeah.
I'm sure it's a dedicated cable that connects the top handle.
Okay.
It also gives the camera tally light. I think it didn't otherwise have one, unfortunately. That's nice. It's a bit pricey, I have to say. I was surprised to see that this is like $900 and maybe now more. Yeah, it's 1,185 with the tariffs, or 1,000 euros even. Yeah, it's a bit pricey for that. And the side handle is a bit cheaper. That's just 160. But
I think it's justified because at the end, it's really transform your camera into something different. I mean, I don't know how the autofocus in this camera, if it's good or not, but all in all, it's more of
I think it's not available yet, so we have this beta version of camera, what is it called, that Blackmagic camera firmware.
Yeah.
I think it's only for the Cinema 6K, which actually, I guess...
The autofocus, you mean?
The autofocus. We should try this if we get a chance to, or get access to a camera, because I'm seeing first people trying it out. But it will come to the normal PYXIS 2. They haven't yet announced autofocus functionality, like this new autofocus for the 12K in general.
Okay.
I guess it's sensor
because then
dependent.
It will make all together. It will make more sense. Like if the autofocus is working okay, and that becomes like a camcorder, more handheld, and
It's a good point. You mentioned the autofocus. Actually, I think we kind of neglected this so far because it's something that's it's an area where Blackmagic Design really has to play catch up. We know that they are not great with autofocus at all, but I guess they have recognized this, and now they have announced for face tracking autofocus, at least for one or two of their cameras, and it's hopefully going to roll out to more of them very soon. But let's see if they can compete with the good ones in this area, which is basically most of the Japanese camera manufacturers now. With the last one being
DJI, of course.
Yeah, but DJI, the
autofocus from DJI, it's working on a different LiDAR.
The LiDAR, but the LiDAR it's not as great as of course the built-in autofocus of a Sony, or Canon, or Fuji, or Panasonic camera. So, good. And last but not least, from Blackmagic, we had DaVinci Resolve 20, which is also out in beta now, which can be downloaded already and tried. Many of those things are related to AI enhancements, and I think they did a pretty good job. I mean, if you remember we had this update to Final Cut 11, like half a year ago, or whatever, or last spring, and the main feature was this magnetic mask, which worked better than the magic mask in DaVinci, and I compared this. However, they caught up, and it seems like I haven't tried it yet myself, but it, like from the videos I've seen, it's really just as good now in DaVinci, and it's only one of so many enhancements in this version.
I mean, we had a private talk with Grant Petty, the owner of Blackmagic Design, and he actually told us that the whole code behind the Blackmagic, the DaVinci Resolve was actually, they redid everything. I mean, in the front, it's the same, but everything behind in order to give new enhanced life to the software is all new.
Although I don't know if he meant for 20, but I think he meant in general they had to redevelop the entire, reprogram everything in order to run natively on Apple M chips and so on.
If I'm wrong here, I'm sorry, but that's at least what I understood.
In terms of performance, yeah. I mean, he didn't say that it was for 20. I think he maybe meant already before. But we know it's a very performant piece of software. I mean, like transcoding, you mentioned transcoding is much faster than with most of the others and so on. Yeah. One cool feature that I think we should try, I'm looking at you, Felix, here behind the scenes, AI-assisted multicam switching. You could use this for the podcast. It's now built into DaVinci. Maybe you want to try the beta version. So automatic switching between people when they're talking with each other, that could be quite useful. I mean, there's external plugins for other NLEs like this, what is it called? Autopod that does that. And now they're kind of trying to build these things in. Really, really cool. An AI voice conversion tool, which sounds extremely spooky in a way. You can change a voice or an accent or fix a line of
I should look at it. Maybe finally I can have proper English. I can talk proper English.
You want to sound like Oxford English? That would be funny.
Not Oxford, but I would love to be sounded a bit less.
Let's try that. Let's release one video of you doing a review in Oxford English, finally. And then see if not mention it and just see if somebody comments on it.
But laughing aside, I think we also understood from Grant that future versions must be, or updates might cost something.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of a confusion because there was a small remark by him in this live stream that for now it's still free. And I think that generated a lot of uncertainty. However, I mean, what does it mean, right? I mean, you pay, $300 for the full studio license. And even if you bought what was the first version that Blackmagic released of DaVinci when they took off, I don't know,
quite
maybe
some time ago,
version 10 or 9, I don't know. And since then, you have never had to pay. So even if you have to pay again $300, what is it compared to the amount of money people spend on Premiere every month? It's crazy. It's nothing. Like it's completely understandable that at some point they will have to charge something again. It's probably, I don't know, just taking a guess here, $100, $200.
Well, just a guess. I mean, we
don't know. Yeah. But I mean, even if it's that, it's like nobody has the right to complain here, to be honest. We're talking about a piece of software that used to cost $30,000 before Blackmagic bought it.
I remember that was announced that it's now going to be the base version will be for free. I remember traveling with another friend. He was an editor and he literally walked like a zombie. He couldn't believe that that's going to be now free.
Yeah. Let's move on to a different manufacturer. So, Johnny, you did an interview with FUJIFILM. It's almost a tradition now for every trade show you go to ask for updates for the long-awaited GFX Eterna. So what's your take on that?
First of all, it's nice to see that FUJIFILM is really proceeding nicely with the development. To tell you that I really like this kind of injection of information piece by piece.
Piecemeal.
It's a kind of a marketing strategy maybe, but I have to respect what the manufacturer is doing here. Obviously, there is a lot of interest in what they do and in this camera. Personally, I'm really eager to see more and to touch it. And it's almost like every time you see another piece of little door opens and, okay, you can do now this one. But for what they for this specific event, they confirmed a variable electronic ND filter system.
That's very interesting. We don't know if that's the LC Tech technology.
To the best of my knowledge, it's not LC Tech, and it's also not Sony who is
interesting.
So that's for the best of my knowledge. But maybe we will be able to get more details in the future. The other very interesting, and I really like this particular feature, they have an internal NPW235 battery. This is the normal the normal battery that they're using for GFX and XT cameras. And this one will really allow hot swap. So you can literally put the small battery in the compartment, and then let's say that your V-mount runs out, no worries about it. The small one will be able to feed the camera for a bit of time. This is genius. I really like this idea. And now we know that the camera will work. The internal memory card support will be CF Express Type B and SD media. Standard, which is always good. And what else? Of course, it will support and will be compatible with the Tascam XLR microphone. This is a bit of a, the camera doesn't have XLR connections, only 3.5 millimeter. And I know that many people were reacting like, really, what's going on? And I really have to ask a bit more next time that we will meet the people at Fujifilm. Why was the decision made not to have on the body XLR connectors?
It would be nice if they at least made their own accessory. I mean, if you think about the accessory to the.
But they are not an audio company. I don't see them making. That's why they're working with Tascam.
DJI is also not an audio company, but they have a there's an accessory to the Ronin 4D which gives you proper audio inputs, which is
DJI
just
is an audio company. They have the mic 2, and they are making microphones and so on. Fujifilm doesn't make those things, and they decided to work together with Tascam, who has this XLR microphone adapter accessory for different cameras. So this will work together with the GFX Eterna, and then of course there will be a support to the Adobe Frame.io camera to cloud, which is Fujifilm is really endorsing this, and I think we will see much
That's
more.
Great.
Much more coming in the near future, because it's all about working now on the reliability of this type of camera to cloud stuff. And the other thing that we know, that the camera will support autofocus, and this is also, in a way, I think it's great news, because it's not always that you have a dedicated focus puller with you.
And it's also not something that can be expected with a large format camera like that.
Exactly. So this will work, of course, with Fujifilm GF lenses. We have no confirmation how and if it will work with other lenses, but I don't really know other manufacturers who are making large format autofocus lenses. So maybe that's not even an issue here.
I wonder if they will come out at some point also with a lens that was kind of made for the GFX Eterna. You know what I mean? It's like a zoom lens or something. I
have to say, if you looked at the featured image, you will see actually an officially unannounced lens. And this is the 30-90 millimeter lens.
So this is new?
This is new.
Did you ask them about it?
Yes, but more details will follow.
Okay.
But at least it's here, and many people actually commented about the lens and not about the camera. So this is quite interesting.
The 32-90 remind me on this large format sensor. What does it equal in full frame?
If the 35 is equal 28 on full frame, then 39 will be equal
32.
About.
So, no, 30. Okay.
Down. There.
24. Yeah, 24-70, I guess.
Yeah. So this is literally kind of almost the standard, the 24-70.
Nice.
And very nice. Personally, I always like smaller lenses, but that's just me. But I think for a lot of work, that will be quite good.
I have to say, in general, it's such a nice looking camera. It looks so good. It's almost like an Alexa 35 in a way. And
it's a very nice camera, and it has, of course, one of the the F-Log 2C, which is, of course, now you can find it in other cameras too. But that picture profile was really made for that camera, We are aware of some people with the concerns of the rolling shutter stuff, but this camera will be tweaked and this camera will perform quite well. I can bet. Fujifilm can't gamble on it. They can't have the first camera not to be a successful one. It's very simple, yeah. So,
but we don't know anything about pricing yet, right?
We don't know about the pricing, but of course they are listening very carefully. We always made a poll a few months ago about how much people might pay. If I was Fujifilm, I would try hard to make this camera an end user one and not a rental piece. And sometimes for me, like it's almost like a guesstimate is like a 10,000. Like if it's below 10,000, I think this is something that people might consider to buy.
Also, especially considering the recent kind of price drop from Blackmagic Design.
Of course, I mean, this is every piece of equipment like this that comes to the market and it is very affordable. It should put pressure. Yeah, so that's the question.
There would be a lot. I mean, if they manage to put this below 10,000, it's gonna be. I think it's the only camera in a cinema body at this size sensor that would perform like that.
I can't even remember how much is the Kine Infinity for now, for example. Of course, it's a large format, and this is one of the excuses why to sell it a bit for more money, but of course we don't know. We simply don't know how much they're going to sell it for. I would love to see this at the 10,000 mark, so that will be more accessible and of course more popular. If it goes higher, I don't know, 13, 14, 15,000, that will make it more of a rental house, probably product. But let's see. I mean, I guess we're going to see the Fujifilm people again at CineGear. I'm really wondering if there will be another round of disclosing some more features. And I don't know, maybe at IBC we will see
I think it's also an opportunity for them because we're now at the time where the industry is struggling, and maybe even these tariffs might mean that some manufacturers might even delay introductions of new products further. That's just a guess, but because it's this uncertainty. But we don't see a lot of innovative cameras right now in the cinema camera field, I would say, outside of Blackmagic Design. I mean, we haven't had a new cinema camera from Sony in quite a while, for example, especially not in this price range.
But the Sony doesn't produce any
exactly.
more.
They stopped doing that.
Right.
Then, I mean, of course, we have Canon, which is more aggressive with pricing now on their cinema line, which I'm sure they're going to be popular. But they don't have a large format, and then
we have Zcam, which
but those are niche players. I mean, it's but
Zcam is actually a very interesting company because we can say niche on one hand, but on the other hand, in events like the Olympic Games, they sold tons of those cameras to whoever was producing the Olympic Games, the last ones in Paris. So it's almost as if they are not really concentrating on the end user, but I'm just saying there is the Zcam and also Kine Infinity, not to forget those. Of course, they're much smaller, but yeah.
But I mean, like we hope we will see something from Sony at some point in this year. But
Fujifilm also have a dedicated audience. So many people really want them to succeed and really want them to bring this camera.
And I think they did a good job at kind of fostering their video capabilities over the last few years. So a lot of people moved on to shoot video with Fuji, and now they want more and they want something higher end. So I think if it's priced right, it can really sell well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if the dear people at Fujifilm are listening, please make it accessible and affordable for the end user. Very simple.
It's always, it must be so tough to define prices if you think about it. You know, like on one hand, you have to do these calculations, like we have to sell X amount for this to at some point make money. If it's at a low price, or if it's high priced, you don't need to sell as many. But then you're competing with a completely different area of the market. So
this is not our expertise to define prices, but here in this specific case, we know Yuji-san told this on camera that they would like to produce more cameras in this line of cinema. So in order to do this, of course, they have to see how successful this camera is. But let's see.
We'll be back after this message from our sponsor.
1 Minute Tips by FUJIFILM and CineD. Let's talk about some basic color theory terms. Any single color has three properties: hue, saturation, and value. Hue actually defines the color that we're seeing in its purest form, so blue, green, red, yellow are all describing hue. As all the colors are arranged around a wheel, hue is measured in degrees. Next, saturation or chroma refers to how pure the color is or how saturated it is, and it is measured on a linear scale. For example, 0 is complete absence of color, while 100 is the purest color. Lastly, value can be thought of as how dark the color is, 0 being absolute black, while 100% is once again the purest. Keep in mind, value and brightness are interchangeable terms, while lightness actually refers to a different way of calculating this and is less commonly used in post-production. Looking at the color wheel, we can also define the terms temperature and tint, with temperature essentially defining movement on the x-axis of the color wheel towards yellow or blue or warmer or cooler, and tint on the y-axis towards green or magenta. 1 Minute Tips. Until next time.
And now back to the show. Okay,
Let's move on.
Let's move on to some accessory stuff. We also gave out awards during Cine, not Cine, CineGear, NAB, the NAB CineD Best of Show Awards for NAB. And one of the winners was the Tilta Nucleus-M 2. Now, I wanted to highlight this because we know how popular the original Nucleus-M was. I mean, just for people who don't know, this is Tilta's fully featured fizz control, basically remote follow focus, zoom and iris for, all kinds of cinema cameras basically. And the original M was very, very popular. Later they brought out the N, the Nano, and but the M remained, I think, the most popular one. And I think a lot of people have been waiting for a new generation of this, and now it has been announced. Now this one, the hand unit, I think got the most innovation here. It's now fully digital. I mean, you can set digital focus markers, AB markers. It will remember stuff from different lenses. You can move it between different lenses and has a memory. Even if you swap the battery in the hand unit, there's, I think, 4 different ways to control it. There is a hand wheel, which is now also giving you digital markings, and that's that here.
It's funny because when I conducted the factory tour at Tilta, I think it was last year or 1.5 years ago, I literally saw their team sitting and injecting all this data from different lenses into it. It was unbelievable. Yeah, it's like really, and now we can see the end result. It
also has a depth of field display, kind of telling you what's going to be in focus and what not. It has a new zoom rocker. It has a slider at the back for iris. So it's really, really comprehensive what they did here. Also, I think latency is even improved. They have new motors, which are a little bit more compact. There's a lot of small enhancements, like, for example, you don't have to swap anymore between 15 and 19 mil mounts. It can all be adjusted.
The rods, you mean?
The rods, yeah, for the rod mount for the motors. There's also an enhancement to the grips. The grips now finally use normal MPF batteries. I mean, that's one of the things that I really struggled with. They used this, I don't even know what the battery type was, but they were extremely hard to get hold of. I remember ordering 3 different pairs of batteries from Amazon because I wasn't sure which one would work. And then none of them ended up working and I had to find it elsewhere. But now finally they're going for MPF, which is great. Yeah, it's a really nicely developed system, and you can, with every detail you see, it's really based on user feedback, because the original system is simply something that's been used on so many sets. Now, of course, I did an interview with Nick at Tilta, who's always a great person to interview about new stuff from Tilta, and I asked him, well, we know that there's a lot of much higher end systems on the market, C-Motion, Preston, and so on. And because he's a camera assistant too, right? His main gig is being a camera assistant on medium-sized to bigger sets. And I asked him, where would you say is the biggest thing that still differentiates this system from the high-end system? And he says the only thing he can think of is basically the integration within the ecosystems, right? I mean, the interoperability to other systems in set is still not as wide, and that's one of the things where, of course, the big brands in this area are still capitalizing. But this is shrinking. This difference is simply shrinking because we are looking here at the system that costs $1,300 for two. That's the 2-motor kit, I think. You can get 3 motors. And it's an unbelievable price for what you get. It's literally, I mean, we have it here. We will review it for sure. And going to be very interesting how it does in the market. But yeah, I think they did a great job. And let's see how it performs. Yeah.
Good. Next.
Let's move on to lenses. Now, you did an interview with NiSi about their new AUREUS primes.
You really have to love the names. Yeah, I really want to be one day with anybody who is inventing those names. But
or I think they just open a dictionary and just point the finger.
I don't know. I mean, I had to think about what's the name of this chocolate thing? Oreos?
Oreos.
Yeah,
it sounds like Oreos.
Yeah, that's just to help me to. Yeah.
It's a product placement.
That's right.
If you're the manufacturer of Oreos, please get in touch. We'll send you an invoice. Thanks.
Anyway, those are a little bit bigger lenses, full frame, and we know that the original, what was the name of the original? Sorry, my brain. The Athena. See, the Athena were very popular. We know, and people really love them. There's in the article one photo that I'm holding both 18 millimeters, the Athena and the AUREUS, so you can see the size difference of those lenses. So
they look very similar, actually.
Bigger. The new ones are actually bigger. And those will come in a variety of focal lengths. There will be the 18, 24, 35, 50, 85, and all of them are T1.4, which is rather fast. 3 additional focal lengths, 29, 65, and 105 are currently in development. And
what's their coverage? Like, what sensor sizes do they cover?
I don't have but it's full frame. Yeah, I mean, I don't have the actual numbers. I just simply don't remember the sensor coverage number. Let me see if I have it in the article somewhere.
46 millimeter image circle.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. And minimum focus distance is also good. It's about 25 centimeters. Actually, there's a whole chart in the article. So if you want to see more, and of course those are PL mount, and it will be quite easy to adapt it to other mounts. They actually allow by themselves to adapt, and there's also a place for the rear filter that they're known for. So you can put any filter or anything that you like. This is quite easy. The actual price will be $2,300, or only for the 18 millimeter, and the rest will be priced at $2,600. And if you buy a kit of 5 lenses, it will be just $1 less than 10,000, which is $9,999.
Those are we see a lot of excitement around NiSi lenses, right? I think they've become quite popular. And I think we even saw it on Blackmagic actually had it on the PYXIS 12K for the promo.
The presentation. Yeah,
the presentation.
So I think like some of the Chinese companies, they are doing something right. And as far as I can see, they're able to create a fan base, like something that Aputure did and NANLITE did, and of course Tilta did in the past. And now we can see this with NiSi. They're able to create a dedicated fan base, users who really love those lenses. It's quality versus what you get price-wise is good. And so they managed to build a solid reputation.
Yeah.
And of course, they also have a strong US base because there is NiSi US, which the US customers really love to talk to US representatives.
That's also that's a good point, actually. We see this also with Tilta. They have really, really good people working for them in the US.
Yeah.
Where, Tilta has this facility in Burbank where you can go, a very nice showroom, and you really have like Nick and many others, like people who know their stuff. Like they don't just put like random salespeople there. They know people from the industry, and I think NiSi will be the same.
In this level of professionalism, you just can't put people that you find in. I don't know. I don't want to name names, but when you go to a supermarket that sells toothbrush next to a camera, that's probably the level of help that you can expect. But if you are a professional and you need more support,
Let's move on because we still have a lot to go through. So
Sure.
the other ones you also did an interview about BLAZAR. Now BLAZAR announced the Mantis, a 1.33x squeeze anamorphic full frame lens series.
BLAZAR actually came out with 2 new products to the show. One was a Beetle lens, which is quite interesting, especially for photographers, that you can literally, it's an anamorphic lens and you can change the lens direction depending if you're shooting vertically or horizontally. But this specific one is a new line of 133 anamorphic. And of course, many people are asking why another one. And first of all, important to remember, this is not an autofocus lens, unlike the Apex. And the other thing is that they really tried, technically speaking, to give a 2x look for those lenses. We haven't tried it yet, but that's the main selling point here, is to try to keep it modestly priced in a way.
And also more accessible because, of course, you can use it on normal sensors.
Of course. And this is, again, it's a PL lens, mount lens, and that you can adapt it. And it will come in 25, 35, 50, 75, and 100 millimeter. And it all depends on the lens, but it's between T2.4 to T2.0. So actually, I'm quite curious to try to put that lens and see how the bokeh looks, if it's a typical 2x, if it's really stronger, because if it is, and they try to, of course, in the interview that they are explaining what they did in order to achieve this type of distortion. I'm just curious to see by myself if it's working.
And I see there's no pricing yet, but they should be around 1,000 to 1,200 per lens. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, BLAZAR is really doing well when it comes to pricing and quality, and let's call it anamorphic quality. So
quality of the look. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, I would have, of course, liked to see them continue with the Apex, with the autofocus anamorphic lenses, but maybe next time. For now, we have this Mantis 133 anamorphic with the 2x look according to the company.
Yeah. Let's move on to some probes. So basically, just a month, I think, before the show, we saw that suddenly DZO came out of the gate with a macro probe lens. Of course, a direct competitor to the Laowa, which is this infamous lens that everybody's using. And it's interesting because they're both kind of similar. They're both zoom lenses now. So we have zoom lenses in this probe area. The DZOFILM is called X-tract macro zoom, and there's going to be 3 versions. It's 18 to 28 millimeter, and it's full frame. Full frame is significant because I think the original probe lens was only from Laowa was only Super 35, and it was T16, 14, and now this is T8. Now this sounds slow. It is slow, but there is no other way to do this in such a long tube. And of course, you need a lot of light, but this is spectacular if you use it for slow motion stuff and your macro cinematography, because you can simply get shots that are otherwise not possible.
You can really see the cheese in the pizza, no?
Everything.
Amazing.
Like in my review, yeah. So there's 3 versions, which is interesting because they kind of do like an elephant version, I would say, which is like a 90-degree snorkel. So there's a prism inside, and this is important because as soon as you start shooting with one of those lenses, you quickly realize one of the biggest challenges is that you constantly are in your own way. You make shadows on the subjects and so on because you're filming very small stuff, whether it's insects or any nature stuff or anything small. And one of the biggest challenges is simply shadows, and that's why it's great to have 3 different versions. One is just a straight version. Then there is a telescopic, like a what is it called? The 90-degree version, which is basically periscope. Thank you, Felix. Periscope version, and then also the 90-degree version. And yeah, this gives you a lot of options because it's basically 3 different lenses, and you can move. You can remove the top part on some of them and move them between the lenses. So you're very flexible with what you can shoot with this. And that's similar for both the DZO and the Laowa, because the Laowa Of course, they have been in this market for longer. Is very similar. I think you can actually, it would be very, very interesting to do comparison between those, to be honest, because this is 15 to 24 millimeter. So we see a slight difference.
Which one? Sorry, the
Laowa is 15 to 24.
No, the Laowa, sorry, is 15 to 24. The T8, yeah, there are two.
Sorry, 15 to 24 for the T8 and 15 to 35 for the T12.
Yeah,
that's correct. And 18 to 28 for the DZOFILM and T8. So yeah, there's different options here now. And there's also, there might be slightly different ways of angling it. You see here in the featured image that the Laowa is not exactly 90 degrees. I think you can angle it, right? This is something you can change because for the DZOFILM, you're kind of fixed with that. So yeah, I mean, we had a lot of discussions because both of those lens sets, I would say, were nominated for our Best of Show awards. And simply because we see the upsides and downsides of each one of them. Also, pricing is very similar. You know, like we are talking about $3,000 to $4,000 price range if you buy all the set of those three from each manufacturer. But they are very, you know, you can't say that one seems better or worse in terms of specs. They seem to have their advantages and disadvantages separately. So we decided to, and the demo footage was convincing from both of them, to be honest. Sure. I mean, we saw very little. For example, I did the interview for DZOFILM. I didn't see any fringing. There was a lot of fringing on the original Laowa lens, which they enhanced a lot on as well. Don't see any on the newer lenses as well. So, you know, it simply looks amazing from both of those lenses. So we decided to give the award to both of them, because it would be unfair to give it just one of them. I think in terms of innovations, it's great. It gives perspectives that are otherwise not possible.
Absolutely.
Good. Moving on to Hollyland and audio stuff. So let's first quickly mention Hollyland, Lark Max 2, and then the Saramonic K9 that you covered. So Hollyland announced a new wireless audio transmitter, which is very similar at first glance to many of the existing systems in the market. Now, the original Lark Max wasn't 32-bit. The new one is. So you have 32-bit recording in the transmitters. Now, there's one downside. They don't have a mini jack anymore. That's not great, but you have a USB-C and you can use an adapter to still use mini jack. So you're not technically using it. It's nice that the transmitter is quite small, and also the way you can place it on your clothing is that you don't actually have to see the transmitter. I mean, you can kind of move it inside, and you just see the clip on the other side, and then you won't see it. They also have another wireless transmitter. Forgive me, I'm not good with names. Which is round, which is a lower end model, which is really perfect, because this looks almost like a lav mic without being a lav mic. It's a transmitter itself, and that doesn't have a logo. So they are really the first ones to recognize that we don't want to show off logos all the time. Now, there is a logo on the transmitters, but you don't have to show it because you can just show the clip in front, and the lack of the mini jack makes it smaller. So if you are using it with an external lav, just use either one that goes directly in USB-C or use their adapter, then it works too, and you still have a small transmitter. Now, but what's special about it? Special about it is the fact that you have a new audio monitoring solution that they came up with, which is basically headphones, over-ear headphones. It's like one of those things you put over your ear, and
it's part of the package, by the way, or
it's separate. And it's not an in-ear, but it's kind of over-ear. But it still gives you access to your surrounding. You're not losing where you are. And you can wirelessly monitor audio. Now, people will now say, wait, we don't want to monitor what the receiver gets. We want to monitor what the camera gets. That was my first question too. Well, the cool thing is they have a cable that kind of gives the feedback from the camera. So you will hear what the camera is recording.
It's very nice, especially if you work by yourself.
Exactly. So this is... It's one of the things that annoys me sometimes is just basically we all use wired headphones to monitor audio. Now, there's a couple of reasons, of course. Bluetooth has a delay. Now, this is something you might have to accept also with this system, but I think it's just very convenient if you're working by yourself to have this. And also, you could even use this as an intercom system if you think about it, because you can put the lav receiver on people and just have two of those as a mini intercom system. If you're working in a team of two, you don't even have to use it as a mic. So it's quite a smart idea, I think. This will not be something that high-end audio people will use, but I can see a lot of creators and small, like one-man bands using this. So this is also why we decided to give them an innovation award from our Best of Show award, because it's something we haven't seen in this already crowded space of wireless video transmitters.
So let's move into something that professionals will certainly use, and this is the new Saramonic K9.
Yep.
And I was blown away when I saw the demonstration for this one. It's a UHF transmission system. The kit will come with one receiver and two transmitters. It's a $999 for the whole set. It's absolutely a professional device with diversity, which meaning it will always look for the best possible channel to work on without any distortion and cuts and so on. What I really, really like, it has a 32-bit float recording on the transmitter, so that you'll always have a hard copy saved in case that something goes wrong. And it has a miniature lav mic, which is 3 millimeter. And not only that the lav is so robust, I mean, I've seen in the demonstration, putting it into mud, flour, whatever you want, it will still record. Unbelievable. But also the cable itself is made, and we know how we treat cables sometimes So this one, it's like the cable simply is very hard to destroy. And also the lav itself is IP67, so it means it's dust and water proof resistance.
We'll have to show this to some pro audio people, maybe Felix, to test and compare to, also the high end, like we said about the Nucleus-M to high end electrosonics or whatever in the market.
This is a system that will surely shake that market, because we know that usually very expensive audio kits like this cost much, much more. And here comes Saramonic with the K9 audio system. And I really urge you guys just to read more and see. I think we also included in the video, in our interview, we included a bit of the promotion material that we saw, which literally shows how robust the whole system is. And it's simply made well.
Great.
Yeah.
And it's $1,000 for a set.
$1,000. And we are now playing a little bit of the demonstration of what did it do.
What are they doing to the mic?
They're killing the mic basically, and the mic still will. Actually, it's a very funny video. I really recommend you guys to watch, because it looks so. It's authentic. What can I say? It's like when you do a good job, you do a good job. There is nothing, and I think it's worth saying when the company do something that. And of course, there is also the app which allow to control up to 48 devices, which is really nice. Not that.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sennheiser, quickly, just to round up the.
True.
Just this one, and then if we have a few more seconds, we can really quickly talk about lights.
Sennheiser, yeah. So.
What is so special about this one? Because
we did Sennheiser is a bit later to the party in terms of having those wireless transmitters for the rest of us, I would say, like for creators and, like one-man bands. And because Sennheiser also being known more as a high-end audio company, of course. Now, there is a lot of interest in that device because it comes from Sennheiser. And it's called Profile Wireless. And it basically are two transmitters that have mini jacks with even, you can attach screw in external lavs. And you have a receiver that is hot shoe mountable.
Is it recording internally, like 32-bit?
It's recording internally in 24-bit. Now, in the interview, I asked about 32-bit, and she kind of hinted that there might be an update coming, but they can't say anything yet. So here's hope that they will simply upgrade it to a 32-bit internal recording. That seems to be possible. So let's see. The cool thing about this is they kind of made a kind of plastic case which houses the two transmitters and the receiver, and then you have a little plop protection on top, and you can use this as a hand mic, like as a big hand mic to record also internally and separately, and use this as a hand mic too. That's a nice idea. Now the transmitters themselves, I have to say, look very robust. They look very professional in a way, more professional than many other solutions in this price range, because this system only costs $300. I mean, it's really, really affordable. Okay. So I think they might be late to the party, but they know that they have to price it aggressively to kind of make a dent in this area. And we can see that people are interested in it. And so let's move on from audio and just quickly mention some lights.
Two lights. Maybe one from NANLITE and the other one is from Godox, I think.
Yeah, so NANLITE. I mean, we reported about a lot more lights. Yeah. Let's just highlight some of them. So NANLITE announced the PavoTube 26XR RGBWW tubes. Those are very small tubes.
Small, and again, when you see that there's thinking behind the product, it's always engaging. And those small tubes can literally be put everywhere. The kit itself is very small. The way that it's being charged, the way that you have indications if it's charged or not, it's very nice what they did here. And
the way you can sync them is just with tapping them, right?
Absolutely.
With Lumen Radio CRMX.
Yeah. So a single one will cost $150, and the whole kit, give me a second.
It's a full charging case with 8 lights.
Yeah, it's $1,490. But if you have something like this, you can really put it almost everywhere and have some nice texture in the background.
And they're magnetic. I mean, I used the first version on a shoot and they were great. I mean, it's almost like using a practical. If they're out of focus in shot, you can place them anywhere. Very, very flexible.
Yeah, so much more information in the article itself. And then if we move on to GVM, Rain.
Yeah.
It's always difficult for me with the names. Actually, there was so much interest about this light because it looks different. I mean, it's like a 1x1 shape with a COB, which is the main LED light, in the middle. And this also looks like a new innovation in a way. There is no other company that makes something that looks like this in the market. And
that's so basically it's a COB. Is it flatter than typical COBs or?
Yeah, it is flat. I mean, I can't remember now it is a bit thick, but not as thick as it would
as a normal COB. Yeah,
that's right. Mm-hmm. And I wish that the internet in our studio will work a little bit better, so I could see some of the photos that I took. But this thing is very nice, and it comes in a few versions. You have it in a big color version, and the other one is
RGB. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, good. $1,000, $1,500 for the RGB.
Yeah.
Good. Different sized COB is always welcome. Also to travel, because we know how long those tubes can get if you need a lot of output. Yeah. Okay, I will continue with the rest of the show stuff, but you have to run to a meeting.
I have to run to an important meeting.
Of course.
But guys, thank you very much for at least listening to this part. Nino will continue hosting you and talk about whatever left. It was a very interesting NAB show. See you soon. Nino, thank you. Felix, thank you.
Okay, a little bit more about lights from me here also. I went to an Aputure event, which was happening not on the NAB show floor. Aputure actually rented a virtual production studio to present, like run workshops and also present their products there in Las Vegas. And it was the Aputure Storm XT52. Now, this is supposedly the brightest LED fixture in the market. We're talking about a light that takes 5,200 watts and equals a 9,000 watt HMI, like an REM90. So that's significant. Now, please be aware that this is not a light that you can power with mains power. It's also, as Ted from Aputure points out, is not a light that is supposedly for end users. This is really targeted at the rental market. So it's also very ruggedly built, of course. And they have something like they have a motorized Fresnel attachment which works really nicely. Now, this is a bicolor light, but it does have adjustment for color hue, like like corrections. So they do not call it an RGB light because you cannot get the full colors of an RGBWW light, but you can do some adjustments to the hue, meaning you can get some kind of pastel-y colors out of it, even though it's not an RGB light, just to be aware of that. And it's actually enough for most productions, as Ted points out in the interview as well, which is true. Like usually, very often you're not going for those full neon colors and stuff like that. You just want a little bit of shade of blue, a shade of red, shade of orange, and that light can definitely do that at a very, very big output, right? Like if you used some of those to shoot through windows, to mimic sunlight, of course, you could also mimic the moon without actually using gels and still be native on the light, kind of. So this, has now been announced. It's not an end user light. It's gonna be $13,000, and it has a kind of ballast, of course, that will power it, and should be available end of April already. It's very interesting to see Aputure moving into this, really high-end market in general. Now, their sibling company, Amaran, which is completely targeted at creators and kind of the lower end of the spectrum, but they've, like we mentioned earlier, like Aputure and Amaran have really managed to create a huge fan base for their products over the last 10 years or so. And Amaran is now completely split in terms of marketing and also organization from the Aputure brands. They also even ran separate events at NAB, where in the past this used to be together. And they announced a new panel light called the Pano 120C. This is a full color RGB light with different powering options. Now, because this is not targeted at professional filmmakers, I would say more at creators that kind of run their own home studio, this does not offer a V-mount powering option, which also kind of makes them freer to make it very slim, which is nice, because the powering works through either a little connector that you can power with mains power, of course, or they have a nice little accessory which is part of the video, which is separate, which is like a big power bank that you can attach to the light and then power it through that. So this little accessory, it is a power bank. Essentially, you can also use your own power banks, but if you use theirs, there's a little mount here, which is a grip for the light as well. And this will power it for around 40 minutes at full output, I think. So quite nice. And yeah, it's a very elegant light, I would say. It looks nice. It's very slim. It goes in a very small carrying case, which is also important if you want to travel with it. And it has a good output. I don't know exactly the measurements on that, but it was bright. I mean, also the CCT color range is great. It's 2,300 to 10,000 Kelvin, which is a very big range, of course. And yeah, check it out. The pricing on this one is attractive. It's below $300. So this is definitely something, if you have your own little home studio or you just want a very small flexible panel light to shoot interviews with, if you're out and about, this is a good option, unless you need V-mount, because if you need V-mount, you will have to use an adapter. You can still mount it, of course, somewhere on your light stand, but there is no way to mount the actual V-mount on the light itself. Just be aware of that. Yeah. So, but if you're set up in a studio and you mainly use mains power anyway, this is definitely an option worth considering, because the light out of it looked very, very nice. Now let's move on to monitors. Now ASUS is really pushing the boundaries here. They're really going deep into the professional market with their new announcements. They announced a new version of their micro LED ProArt display, which is a massive 162-inch 4K HDR micro LED display. This is a new version. I think they announced something similar last year already, and now it has an even smaller pixel pitch, and it's, well, actually it's slightly larger than the version that was exhibited last year. We don't have pricing on this yet. The high brightness is great with 1200 nits at peak and a 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio and 97% DCI P3 color gamut. All looks and sounds really great. Johnny was really impressed by this when he did the interview at the NAB. So very curious what this will cost. But, like it could be an expensive home cinema option, but it's mostly targeted at professional environments and color grading and so on, of course. And, probably displaying a master of a feature film to, a color graded or like a color graded version of that to the director and clients and so on. Now we also have the ProArt display 6K with 32-inch. Now this is a monitor that we are currently reviewing. More specifically, Gunther is reviewing that. We'll release that review relatively soon. It's an amazing display with 6,000 pixel width. So 6,000 by around 3,400 pixels at 216 pixels per inch. Gunther was really impressed. I can give you that already with this display. It's really targeted at colorists and it's very high end. It features 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports with 96 watt power delivery. It has, like 45% more on-screen workspace compared to a 4K monitor of that size, because of course everything gets a little bit smaller with the 6K. And it's great to see options in this space simply because, we all know a lot of us have used those 5K displays in the original 27-inch iMacs from Apple before. And since Apple discontinued this size of iMac, there's really a lack of those screens. There is an LG screen now, which is about the same size. But if you compare the price of what you used to pay for that iMac, which included the computer, to now you pay just for the display, there is room for monitor companies to kind of like introduce products in that range. And I think they're doing that now with those big screens that are giving us options with higher resolutions than 4K. Because if we are editing 4K, we really need a display that has a higher resolution so we can actually watch the 4K within the NLE at full resolution without, just not seeing anything else anymore. And if you are in front of such a big screen, you do see the difference for sure if it's a higher resolution. They also introduced a ProArt display with 15.6 inch, a 4K monitor. That is also features SDI, so it's really made for on-set usage. An on-set monitor of 4K at this size is also very welcome because we know that a lot of those screens are extremely expensive that are in the market. So it's nice to see some competition there. We don't have pricing for this yet, so let's see where it comes in. But we know that if you buy a monitor like that from, let's say, small HD at this size, it will set you back quite significantly in terms of budget. So let's hope that ASUS brings in something more attractive here. They also introduced a new calibration device that is compatible with all their ProArt monitors, which is very useful because, of course, I think it's good to have the calibration device from the same manufacturer just to be sure that it's actually calibrating for your needs. Good. Let's move on to another piece of news from NAB. Now, Adamas was interesting, this NAB, because we know that Adamas, mostly known as the monitor recorder company, we know that this market might be a little bit under pressure considering that most of the cameras now are recording higher quality internally, especially in the newer cameras. You have more and more cameras coming to the market that are recording some flavor of RAW internally. Now, this is still, of course, not true for all the manufacturers. So, for example, Sony doesn't have that for most of their cameras except for the high-end ones. But for more and more of the others, it's true. And I think people, probably don't use as many recorders as they used to back in the day when you got just significantly higher quality out of them. Even though Adamas is very advanced with this game, you really now also have very, very good monitoring functions in all their monitor recorders, like even if you don't record. And they also, by the way, released a couple of monitor-only products like the Shinobi line over the last years as well. But they obviously are trying to diversify what they do. So they're going into different fields. People might not know that they actually purchased Aton, the French audio company, sometime last year, I think, or 2 years ago. And this was, I think, I think that company was almost dissolved, and they kind of got the patents and whatever they had as intellectual property. And this is why they are making first forays into the audio field. Now, it looks like they might not continue many of the Aton mixers, but they have released a pair of headphones, like studio headphones, which is interesting. They look like typical studio headphones. They're very large, and they don't have noise cancellation. Because they're made to deliver a very neutral sound. They're very, very comfortable. I tried them on. They have the large jack, the studio jack, and also a mini jack, so you can kind of decide what you don't need to use an adapter. And they sound very good. That's not a huge piece of news, but it's interesting that they move into this field. I think it's just their first move into the audio field. They also decided to go into PTZ cameras. So we have like 3 different PTZ cameras with built-in motion tracking from them. The motion tracking worked remarkably well when I saw it on the booth. So basically, if there is a dominant face, like if you move in front of it and you're kind of clearly the largest face in the frame, it can be set to automatically follow you, and it's a bit creepy how well it works actually, even zooming. So you move further away and it would zoom in if you are tracked by the zoom version of that camera. So there's a couple of different versions of that they are bringing to the market. And they also have an optional PTZ controller, which will be available for purchase. And not only that, they also introduced a wireless video transmission system. Now, this was interesting. It looks very similar to some of the options in the market that we also have from Hollyland and so on. But I have to say, of course, we weren't able to test it, but they said that the latency is very, very low. And we actually saw it on the screens where they were displaying it. It's 4 to 6 frames for HD and 8 to 12 frames for 4K. So this is a 4K wireless transmitter that is actually quite fast. And I was surprised to see that because we are yet to publish other videos from Axoon and so on that, are really into the wireless video transmission system game, and we know that the big difference of most of those systems compared to the Teradek systems is always the latency. But with this one, the latency seems to be very, very good. Also, pricing is quite attractive at around $600. So quite interesting. Let's see how it compares and how this will do in the market. Now, as you see, completely different hardware products, but they also announced the Atmosphere. It's basically kind of, imagine it almost like Frame.io, but built into your camera, not camera, but built into your Atmos monitor recorder. If you ever purchased any type of Atmos product in the past, you will get free access to this with, I think he said, 20 gigabytes. And then they want to, of course, sell you a subscription for a higher, like 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte to upload your footage. I think it's nice to try out. It's nice to see that, like these cloud systems, this works in parallel to their Frame.io integration, which they also offer, I think, for their monitor recorders, the camera to cloud kind of thing that's integrated with their devices, but this is their own service. So and there's also feedback functions and stuff like that. So worked pretty nicely. There's also a demo in our interview video. So you press record on the recorder, and it will immediately start uploading the proxy file. And once you stop recording, it will finish the file, and you can immediately watch it remotely, which was quite impressive. So Atomos hugely diversifying here. Let's stick with cloud for a little bit. I also did an interview with Michael Sioni from Strada. Now, that's the same guy we had on the podcast last week. If you missed that episode again, we didn't talk about his product in the podcast, but he is somebody who's worked in Hollywood for many, many years. He was with Frame.io. He was with Panavision. Light Iron, and many, many other places. So he really knows the place inside out. And we talked about where the industry is headed and the kind of struggles it currently has. And with his own company, he and his brother, Strata, it's a startup, they are trying to come up with a lot of workflow enhancements for video people, I would say production houses and also smaller creators, I would say. And what they announced at NAB is basically be your own cloud. So basically a way to use the storage that you own as a cloud service without paying for a cloud service. And the way he explained it to me, because I was surprised how well it worked. So basically you have your computer in your studio, in your office or at home, plugged in a external storage device and using their new service, which so far is free in beta. So you can just go to their website and try it out. They don't charge anything for this. And you can just define that, for example, a hard drive full of media files can be different kind of media files, right? It can be all kinds of different movie files, that this will be your cloud drive. And then you can just send invitations to people everywhere to access whatever is on there. And you can, of course, restrict access. You can give access to different folders and different people for different stuff. It's very similar to what you would do using Frame.io, with the difference being that it's not hosted on somebody else's server. It's hosted on your own, and it's basically streaming the content that you have on your drive to whoever wants access to that. And it worked really well. The way he explained it is it's like having a Zoom call with your own video files. And that's literally what it felt like. I was amazed how fast it was. And yeah, the only explanation I have is basically it's kind of like a screen share, but it's only showing you the actual media files. So it's pretty smart in that way. It's definitely worth trying out. We will definitely try and make this work for our purposes also at trade shows, because it makes simply a lot of sense. And it scales also to very slow internet connections. Of course, it's also dependent on the upload speed that you have. But he demonstrated it in the video also. He had a computer. First, they had a computer at a colleague's place in Australia, so kind of the other side of the world. And they filmed the screen of that computer, so you could see how fast it was working and how they had displayed how fast the upload is actually working on that computer if they access it from Las Vegas. And you could see how well it worked and how fast it was. And then he also had a separate setup in his hotel room, like we know all the crappy hotel room internet. And I think he stayed at the MGM hotel, and he accessed a drive that was hooked up to a computer in his hotel room on the Wi-Fi there. And it was a little bit more pixelated, but you could still watch video. And it didn't matter if it's 4K or 6K video, because what would end up happening, the software would kind of play it back locally and do this kind of Zoom call with your files. So it didn't really matter what kind of resolution it was. So I think the approach is very, very smart, because they're probably always just transmitting the same amount of data, and it doesn't even matter what kind of file you're playing back. So go check that out. It's called Strata Agents, and it's now, I think, available for free for now. They also still have their enterprise solutions and a lot of other stuff that they offer, which is really targeted at B2B. But this one, I think, is really useful for the rest of us. Good. I think so far we've covered a lot. We've not covered everything from NAB. We might catch up with the rest next week that we haven't talked about this week. And I thank you for watching. This has probably been a long episode, but yeah, that's how it is after a trade show. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to CineD Focus Check on all your major podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. And also, of course, YouTube, which is the most popular outlet for our podcast right now. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you have questions. We'll be happy to answer them. And see you next week.